Hi friends, it's Becky, and it is time for me to open up the January 2025, not 2024, I almost said 2024, Bargain Bead Box. And it is one that I am really looking forward to. I spoilered myself, so I kind of know what color theme they went with for this. And it's one of my favorite colors. If you don't want spoilers, this is your opportunity to go down to the little 3 dots at the bottom of this, hit save to watch later, and then exit out of this video and come back once you get your bead box and compare your impressions with mine if you want to go ahead and save it for later and not be spoiled. But if you're ready to see what's in here, then put your feet up, stick around for a while, because at the end of my unboxing, I'm going to be doing an on-the-fly design using the beads from this box. I challenged myself this month to do this with every single bead box, every single package, purchases that I get, things if friends send them to me, every single thing that I'm opening, I am going to do an on-the-fly design with. It's just my little challenge to myself for this month, and so that's what I'm going to be doing at the end of this. I'm going to make something with the beads in here, whether it's just a pair of earrings or a full set or maybe a bracelet. I don't know yet. The inspiration has not struck. But in addition to unboxing, I'm also going to be sorting it into these 15 grid organizers. This is my favorite way to organize and keep my monthly subscription boxes, because then I can see all the beads all together. They stack very nicely, like either on the side or on top of each other. And it just helps me keep things in order, because my life is chaos. And if I can have a little bit of order in the midst of that chaos, then everything is better. So now that I've given people who don't want spoilers plenty of time to get out of here, let's open this up and see what's in it. Also, if you just want to stick around for the jewelry design and you don't really care about the unboxing, there will be a link in the description that it's just a timestamp link. You can click on that and that'll jump you past all of this. You can time travel right to the part where I'm making my design at the end of this. So let's unwrap it, and it's pink! Oh gosh, and I love antique copper too. Pink and antique copper, such an iconic combo. Y'all, I love it. Love this. So far, very into it. Let me get the paper out and make sure that we are hiding our 30% off coupon. Subscribers to the Bargain Bead Box get a 30% off coupon that they can use at the sister store, which usually has very decent prices on check glass, gemstones, findings, all sorts of things, even the extras for the box. And if you're a subscriber, you get 30% off with a little coupon code that they send you every month. So let's take a look at our description. It is Dusty Rose, which I don't know if I've told you guys this, but that was like the name of the bike that I saved up to get when I was like 7. It was the Dusty Rose or Desert Rose. I can't remember. It was something like that. And Rhodonite is absolutely one of my favorite gemstones. So Rhodonite stars in this vintage inspired collection. We love the luxe feel of this natural pink and black gemstone, especially when accented with sparkling crystal, pink freshwater shell, a touch of black tourmaline, and medallion motifs in antique copper. I am so ready for this box, you guys. There's a list on the back of all of these, and it will even let us know which ones of the metal components are lead-free, cadmium-free, like the Rhodonite and brass pendant there. It looks like the coin beads, the bead caps, medallion drops, the pendant, toggle clasps, and the Rolo chain are all lead-free. So it's nice that they give us that labeling so that we've got those for when we're doing these. Let me get... Is this all? I think all of the metals in here are denoted as lead-free. How exciting is that? It's fantastic. I can already hear my sister. She's going to be watching this and she's going to be like, Becky, I also like pink. I can hear you already, Jenny. All right. Now, since these are labeled, I'm not going to go down the list. I'm going to toss that paper to the side, and I am just going to open them as I get them, as they come. I'm going to start usually with the beads, especially these longer bead strands. I love these. How fantastic. And then we'll go through findings, metal components, there are so many fantastic findings in here. I'm gonna have so much fun making with this. I might have to get a second box. I don't always get a second box. Also, oh my gosh, you guys, I cannot wait for the companion bundle to come out. I love getting the companion bundles. And if you aren't familiar with the companion bundles, they started putting together finds from within the Bargain Bead Box Bargains shop, and they'll put together bundles of some of the beads and findings that will go along or accompany these, and they put them together for a really decent discount price, but they're very limited in quantity. So when they announce them, if it's in your budget, you probably want to go ahead and get it and not really sleep on it too much, because if you're like, oh, put it in my cart and come back tomorrow, it'll probably be gone tomorrow. Just a word of warning on that. But yeah, I cannot wait to see what they do for a companion bundle. That's going to be so much fun. I'm in love with this, guys. All right. Now, settle down just a minute and let's start putting these in here. Some of these strands can be pretty long and have fairly large beads, and when that happens, I like to take the little divider and lay it down and have two sections. I'll go ahead and leave that down for the long ones. Let's see, 8 by 6. It might be this one. This is freshwater shell rondelle nugget beads. They are dyed pink, and there's 14.5 inches of these. Let me grab my ladybug dish because I like to use it to put the beads on and get them closer to the camera, because that gets a much better, the camera can color adjust so you get a better idea of what the colors are and it focuses better. This is a lot of these. I love them. They're very pinky pink. This is a princessy pink. There we go. These are going to be a fantastic addition to like so many different designs. I'm already seeing them stacked between other beads, like maybe 3 or 5 at a time. I like odd numbers for stacking things like this. All right, let's get another one of our long strands. These are 8mm rhodonite round beads, and the rhodonite rounds will have some pinks, some browns, and some blacks all mixed in. Like that. And this might be another one, especially with these larger beads like 8mm. When you've got 15 inches and they're 8mm, it may end up too many for one section. So let's get these off and see if it's too many. And I can always lay down that divider, and it is too many for one section. I'll lay down that divider and get the rest of these sorted. There we go. So we've got our bright pinks, our light pinks, and we've got our moody dark pinks. And then pink rhodonite, we've got our 6mm rounds, and these have less of the black involved, the pink rhodonite, but you still get some sort of tan, brown, beige colors in addition to this beautiful, beautiful dusty rose pink. Love that. And even though this is a 15-inch strand, the beads are smaller, so they will all fit in this section here without me needing to lay down that section. Might be a tight fit, but it'll fit. Like that. All right, and this is a shorter strand. It's 7.5 inches, but they are 10mm rose quartz matte rounds. I love rose quartz. This is such a princessy pink color as well. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to cut the, oh, actually I don't need to cut it. It's got, oh no, I do. What in the world, friends? Why did you tie it around that? I'm just going to move this pink, bright pink cord out of there so we get a better idea of like just the really light pink color. Sometimes the cord that they're strung on will affect the color that you're seeing. And it looks like these 10mm beads are just a little bit too big to all fit in one section. So I'm going to pop a couple of these in here with these guys. They're just over there visiting their neighbors. Just having a friendly visit. Having a sleepover. All right. So we've got some more rhodonite beads here. We've got the 12mm faceted coin beads. There are 8 of these in the box. There's a lot of variation there, but there's some good pairs. So you could take these 2 for like some earrings, maybe these 2, or you could have them sort of mirroring each other in a necklace, maybe, so that they're strung in the same or similar order. How are we going to do that? There we go. Something like that. So it looks like I've got a few pairs in that selection there. And then we've also got these rhodonite oval drops. They are 18 by 13mm. There's 2 of them. And there's the other side. I sort of love these. I'm going to, for the time being, put these in here where I like to put pendants and charms and things. I may end up moving them to be in here, but it depends on like what else I'm going to be sorting into which sections. Then we've got some 8 by 6mm crystal faceted rondelle beads. They're in vintage mix. So we have these light amethyst rondelles. We've got some sort of misty purple ones. We've got some sort of gold metallic ones, and some with this like vitriol coating, like this purple iris coating for each of these. Let's get this off. I think there are too many in this mix for them to be in one section. I may need to put down the divider for a second section of these. I love a good crystal mix. Yeah, that's going to need 2 sections. It is a very, very long strand for these guys. We have a lot of beads in this box. I love that. Absolutely love that. Yeah, actually, I'm looking at it and I'm probably going to need to put these guys in here with them because I do have quite a few more things to unstrand. I mean, I've got 3 more strands of beads, and then I've got all of these findings as well. So these are 4mm crystal faceted icons. There's 12 inches of these, and they are in antique copper. Look how sparkly those are. And it is my least favorite stringing material. It's this very fine wire. And I'm not going to jinx myself by saying, oh, it's been a while since I've poked myself with it. Because if I say that, then obviously I'm going to poke myself while unstringing this. So I'm just going to be very, very careful because I hate when that happens, and count myself lucky if I make it to the end without it. Whew, so far so good. All right. Sometimes the poking happens when I'm cleaning up everything afterwards. All right, now we've got some 5x3 crystal faceted rondelle beads in copper pink. There are 13 inches of these. And they're also, nope, looks like, yeah, that's a wire that it's strand on it. But they're small enough that I'm not going to unstring it into this box. I'm going to curl these up and just set them right in here so that when I'm working on my beads, I can just unstring it from here and it'll be a little easier for me to work with. And the same thing with these black tourmaline faceted round beads. I'm going to get this one up for a little bit of a close-up, and we are going to do a wobble so we get some sparkles. Isn't that beautiful? I love the sparkles. Absolutely love the sparkles. So I'm going to leave these on their strand as well. And I think what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to roommate situation this one right here with these copper guys, because that way I can see both of them at the same time when I'm looking in from the top down. Look at all these beads. This is before we even get to the findings, y'all. That's fantastic. All right, now we've got some toggle clasps. There are 3 of these, and they are super textured. Once again, these are ornate toggle clasps, and all of these are going to be in the antique copper colors. I love these. They're so textured. All right, toggle clasps are going in here. And then we've got some rope accent bead caps. These are going to go right here. We have 20 of them. They're 8x5 millimeter. I'm going to go right there. We've got some spacer beads. Well, they're just basically beads. They are fancy coin beads. They are 11 by 10 millimeter. These are on the heavy side, so I don't know if I'd use them for earrings, but they will make fantastic pieces on a bracelet or something else like that. Actually, should I be combining them? Probably not. It'll be fine. All right, and these are some drops. I'm going to have both of these up here so you see the front and back for these charms. They're medallion drops, and they are 10 of them. They're 13 by 9 millimeters in size. Because I still need somewhere to put my chain. I think the chain's going to go in here. So why don't I put the drops? Actually, no. Drops in here. Okay. Let's get this chain situated. We have 1 meter of 4 millimeter Rollo chain. Rollo chain is probably one of the most versatile types of chains, just because of the way it's constructed, the way it works. I like Rollo chain or curb chain for extender chains. When you are doing a bracelet, these little loops are fantastic for hanging drops or dangles from, if you're going to be doing like a dangle or drop sort of a thing. Ooh, you know, I might, maybe. I haven't completely decided what I want to make with this for my designing thing yet. We haven't gotten through the entire thing yet. But we have 2 of these medallion pendants, and I'm turning them. One is upside down, the other one's right side up. There's a concavity on it. So this is the convex side, that's the concave side. So you can see there. And they are both this antique color copper, or antique copper color. I love the intricacy of these swirls and designs. There's so many different places that you could maybe go through and do some wire wrapping. Oh my gosh, yes, no, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make some earrings, and we're going to do some wire wrapping, and I'm going to wrap these around it. And what else are we going to have on there? Maybe a couple of these. Sorry guys, I just made a decision as to what I'm going to be making with y'all. I'm going to make some earrings. Yeah, I'm going to make earrings with these. Yep. Just, yeah, inspiration hit. And you know what? If I am, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. Let me get my last thing sorted, and then we'll get started with making some earrings with that. I'm going to wire wrap these little bitty guys around the edges of this, and then we're going to do just a little link with these the crystal rondelles and some of these bicones, and that's just going to be a pair of earrings. So I will grab my wire for that in a minute after we take a look at this pendant. All right, let's get this up here so you can see it in better detail. That's rhodonite and brass pendant. I don't have a measurement on it, but it is a little bit smaller, just a little bit, maybe a millimeter or two than these ones, and they are 35 millimeters. So this is about 33 probably for this one. I'm going to go ahead and stick that right there in the front on top of those guys. And I'm going to move this out of the way now that I've started. And all right, friends, if you are joining from the not too distant past and you just skipped ahead to where I'm making this with, I am going to be using these two-tone crystal rondelles with like this light purple color, this light pink, and copper. I'm going to wire wrap these around the outside of these medallions, and then make a link using these copper bicones and these like light purple, lilac-y, they're more like lavender maybe, lavender color crystal rondelles. So that's what I'm going to be using for my design on the fly. And I need some wire working tools. I've got my round nose pliers, some chain nose pliers, got my bail making pliers because I'm going to be making some ear wires to go with these. I've got some 22 gauge wire. And for the wire wrapping part, I'm going to need some finer gauge wire. So where's something that's closer to 24 or 26 gauge? I've got some 26 gauge. And this is bright copper, but it's bare copper, so it will patina over time. And I'm going to need some wire cutters. Here we go. This will do. All right, I'm just going to pull off about, I'm estimating how much I'm going to need for this. I think, you know what, I'm just going to give myself an arm's length of this wire. If I use less, I use less. If I use more, I use more. All right, and I will do one earring with y'all, and I'll finish up the other one off screen so that we can not spend forever and a day together. Although I know a lot of you would appreciate that because you like to spend time with me, and I like to spend time with you guys too. But sometimes I do have other things to do. Hold on. No freshwater shell bead left behind. Let me get that. It was still in the bag. I'm just gonna put that in there. All right, moving these guys out of the way real quick. And getting this, unstringing some of these beads. These are about 3 millimeters, 3 to 4.5 millimeters. What size were these again? Three and a half by 3. There we go. So they are tiny, but they are sparkly and they are pretty. I'm just gonna snip this wire right here because I'm trying to get it to go around the outside of that wire. It's just not going. It's not cooperating for me. It's okay. It's totally perfectly okay. All right, now I'm moving tools out of the way so that the wire doesn't catch on it. And I'm just going to start up here at the top by putting the end of this wire through this hole here on the top a couple of times. To help secure it in place before I start the wire wrapping. I'm going to bend this around one more time. Now, one thing about doing wire wrapping to keep in mind when you're doing it is to go slow, be gentle, and try not to kink your wire. So sometimes like pre-bending it helps, but of course gently, because you don't want to bend it back and forth. That weakens the wire. All right. I'm just going to snip off this excess here and tuck this edge in next to here to make sure that it's not going to come up. So now that I've got that secured, I can start wire wrapping, and I'm just going to pick up a bead. And the reason I'm not pre-stringing all of these to go on there is because I'm going to need the end of my wire to go through some of these holes, and it's not going to do that if, and I'm just going to bend around, push the bead against that, and then just bend down like that to find out where my hole is that I need to go down for the next one. I think it's going to be this swirl here. And again, this is the part where you're going to want to make sure that it doesn't get twisted up or kinked. Go a little more slowly, sort of help to pre-bend it, and then pull it through. And I'm going to just push with my thumb against the wire and the bead to get that bead to stay where I want it to be. Just to push it there. And I'm going to string another bead on. Just here on the end of my wire. Boy, why is that harder than it needs to be? Probably because I cut off more wire than I needed to cut off. All right, and then right there, that's where I'm going to go through for this next one. Preventing kinks. Guide your wire. Remember, you're in charge of your wire. It's not in charge of you. Give it a pinch. See, that lays nicely. right where that loop is coming over there, that's where I want to go in. Like with a wide loop, you can kind of push the wire through and pull it. But since I don't have a large loop to push through, I have to go in and insert my end of my wire through. And that's when things can get a little kinky if you're just not careful with it, if you don't go slow. So far, so good. I'm just going to keep going around until I get to the other side. So if you would like to skip forward to the end of the wire wrapping, I'll put another little timestamp in there. Otherwise, if you are happy spending some time with me while we're beading, then we can just do this together. And I've got a little scroll sort of in the way there where I would be putting this through. So I'm just going to put this wire next to it. Right through there. Oop. Getting towards a little bit of a kink. I don't want sharp bends unless I make them on purpose. My wire keeps hitting these beads, so I'm going to move them over here away from where I'm working on them, just so that my wire doesn't keep hitting them and moving them out of the way. Would you guys like to see this in a little closer detail? And honestly, because I'm recording this and I can't hear you guys say yes, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit right here, so you guys can see in a little bit closer detail what I'm doing with this. So I'm going to pick up one of my little beads, and this is going to travel all the way down to the end of my wire. Carefully. So I've got it right there. If I hold that there and sort of bend straight down with my finger, it's going to go in to this little divot, that little section there. So I'm going to take my wire, feed it through that little bit, pull it carefully, slowly, maybe feed it through a little bit more. Sticking my finger in here to kind of round that out so it doesn't kink when I pull it. And then when I pull it right here, I'm putting my thumb against it and giving it a little pinch to make sure it stays right there against the edge. All right, time for another bead. I'm almost a quarter of the way done. This is the sort of activity that you could do while you are, I don't know, listening to an audiobook, watching some YouTube, watching some television, or chatting with some friends, because it's sort of the same thing over and over as you work towards the end of something. You know, while we are looking real close at my hands, I had an observation the other day about maker hands, and in my relation to my forebears and things like that, because I've always been fascinated by the hands of the women in my family who are makers, who do things with their hands, who cannot sit still and just not do anything. And I used to hold my mom's hand like in church, that sort of thing, and just play with her hands, trace the lines of her fingers. Her hands were always so strong and capable, and they still are. They're very strong and capable hands. Arthritis runs in my family, though, and I remember my grandma's hands with her very delicate skin and her strong hands, which were very, very capable, but there were gnarls on her fingers, and like when I was little, I was like, what is that from? How did that happen? And I noticed the other day my very first little gnarl on my finger. There's this little bump right there, and it's like, it's not something to be sad about to me. It's something that, like, I'm finally earning my place, like, in the line of makers that I come from. I've been using my hands enough. I've been doing this enough that my hands will match theirs. My hands will be like theirs are or were. And it's just an observation, just a little thing that I noticed. It's taken me so many years of living this long and doing things with my hands to start developing a little bump on my knuckle. And like, huh, how interesting. I'm like, I'm not afraid of growing old or looking old or being old. It's just a state of being, right? It's like, I got little age spots on my hands. That's fine. You know, it just means that I've been in the sun a little while, you know. That's all it means. You know, I earned my wrinkles. I earned my gray hair. I lived every single one of those years. And every single one of those years contributed to my experiences, my expertise, my knowledge. I wouldn't trade any of the knowledge that I have right now for a few more years of looking pretty, you know? I know. Just my musings on aging, I guess. Since I am heading towards that part of my life, you know? And I am super, super comfortable with it. Look how sparkly that is. I think part of it is, especially I think a lot of the women in my generation, a lot of us have just embraced and been like, yeah, it's fine. I'm just going to have my hair be gray. I mean, my hair is different colors, so it's hard for me to just let my gray shine when I want it to be pink instead. But that was also one of those, I remember distinctly being absolutely jealous of the older women in the library at school who had purple hair, because I was like, oh, I can't wait till I'm old so I can have purple hair. I didn't realize that you could do it anytime you wanted. I thought you had to be old first. That's how I was thinking. So I mean, you know, but I think a lot of us are just, you know, things that people say. You see a lot of it, especially like Gen X. People are like, oh, well, we drank from the fire hose and we didn't have seat belts and stuff, and we rode in the back of the pickup trucks and we were just fine. And like, there's a lot of survivor bias that goes to that, because like, not everyone was just fine after riding in the back of a pickup truck, and that's why they have laws about it now, you know? So like, you know, we're here, we're still here, we made it. And a lot of us had friends who, you know, checked out early because they couldn't deal with everything else, but we survived, we made it through. So being able to be a survivor and make it through life and get to a certain point, it's a privilege. And so I am not embarrassed or ashamed or worried about being older, because like, I made it, I got here, I did it, and I'm gonna keep going, because that's what we do. It is a privilege to grow old. It is a privilege to have gnarls on my fingers. It is a privilege to get wrinkles. It's going to be a privilege to age. And not everybody gets that. Not everybody makes it there. So, deep thoughts with Beki while I'm wire wrapping. Some of you are probably like, I should have skipped ahead at this point. I didn't know we were going to have an existential crisis. It's not an existential crisis, it's just observations. All right, here we go. We're at the middle of the road, halfway through. Let's get all the way around to the other side. But yeah, this is probably a good reason for me to do the other one on my own. Because I may run out of philosophical musings. It could happen. It could absolutely happen. I don't know though. Deep thoughts. It's one of the reasons I like doing jewelry making, is it helps me like sort of center some of my thoughts. To feel centered, to get everything all together, put together in my head. It's one of the reasons I like being able to spend some time doing meditative practices. So thanks for hanging out with me while I'm philosophizing and wire wrapping at the same time. Zen in the art of wire wrapping. It's not as much of a joke as you may think, because there's a lot of opportunity when you're crafting to reorder your thoughts, to become better acquainted with yourself, to become a better friend to yourself, especially if things aren't working right the first time. Being able to be generous and give yourself grace. Those are important things to be able to do when you're doing these things. All right. Let's keep going. We are almost there. Almost there. Again, I'm wrapping with 26 gauge wire, and then I've got 22 gauge sitting in the corner waiting for me to do the rest of the earring. 24 gauge would work for this as well. I kind of do like 26 better for wrapping like this, just because it is a little more flexible than 24 gauge. And another one. It's nice to be able to spend some time doing something. And again, this is a blessing to be able to have time to create with. I haven't always had time for this sort of thing. So I am very cognizant and aware of how much of a privilege it is to be able to spend time doing things like this. Almost there. Almost there. I like these extra blingy bits on the outsides of this medallion. To be fair, I could have just done an earring just with the medallion, but I really like being able to add some extra sparkle, some extra bling. Oh no. Don't kink, don't kink. There we go. More. Actually, a few more. I actually have a kink in the wire right here. You can see it. I'm just trying to skip past it. For now, I think actually I could probably cut. I think I have enough that I can cut this kink away. Hopefully I have enough wire, probably do. Yeah, because it's only a few more beads. We're just nearly at the end here. So I had cut off about an arm's length, and then just now I cut off about 10 or 12 inches, so you might be able to get away with shorter than an arm's length for this. But still a few feet. Maybe 2.5, I don't know. All right. This one right here. Go through the hole. There we go. It wouldn't go through the hole. And one more. So this is adding some bling without adding a lot of extra weight to these medallions because they're going to be heavy enough for earrings. They're fairly lightweight though, so that's what the filigree is giving us, is a lot of size without a lot of weight. All right, so now I'm going to just go through here a couple more times and wrap it around that part to mimic what I did over here. And once more. All right, cut that off there. I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers and carefully squish just the wire, not the beads next to it, just to smooth that out, flatten down any pokey outy bits. And there we go. We've got our sparkly medallion. Now I'm going to scooch back just a little bit, grab my 22 gauge wire, and I'm going to cut 2 sections for ear wires, and I'll show you how to make those in just a minute. I'm cutting 2 of them for ear wires because I like to make ear wires 2 at a time so they match. Because even if I make my ear wires like exactly the same way, sometimes they're not exactly the same. But if I make them both at the same time, then they'll match. All right, I'm just going to put on a bicone, rondelle, and bicone. This is just to make my little link on my 22 gauge wire that's going to be between my ear wire and the medallion that I just wrapped. And let's grab some round nose pliers about 1.5 to 2 inches from the end. I'm going to bend this back away from me like that, and then push it up over the top of the wire and around to the front. Then I need to move this lower loop up to the top, and you do that by opening the wire and rotating it, and then just pushing this around to the other side. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this end by holding my loop and using just my finger. You can use another pair of pliers if you want to, but I'm just pushing my wire around this core. That's a very messy wrap. Sometimes with softer wires it does get a little bit messy. It's because it's possible to overbend and not. I'm gonna snip off my excess. I thought I snipped that off. There we go. All I'm doing is just doing a gentle rotation around the twist, just to tighten it up a little bit, make it look a little neater. Gentle. You do not have to smush the crap out of it. And now here I'm going to measure 3 fingers down from the bottom of this bead and cut my wire for my lower loop. And I'm going to want this loop to be perpendicular to this loop. So I'm going to make sure that we are looking right at the loop and not that it's disappeared like that. I want it to be facing the camera or to me when I make my first bend. I'm going to hold on to my wire with my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to bend that over the top of it so that there's some space right here between the bead and my loop for doing more wrapping. I'm going to do a loop just the same way I did with this one. Bring it up over the top, move the pliers out of the way, and then bring it around. But I'm going to stop there, and I'm not going to wrap until after I've attached this to my medallion. Boop. There we go. Now that it's attached, I can close this loop, and I'm holding just the loop and wrapping with this wire around the neck or the core of that wire until it gets to those beads, and giving it a snip to cut off that excess using my flush cutters, and then using this to very gently tuck in the end of that. And now when I add my ear wire, it will face forward for these earrings. And let me show you how I make my favorite. Well, there are 2 different types of ear wires that I like to make. These are the simple ones. So I've got both of my wires put together, and this is the flush cut end. And I'm going to just pinch them right here in my 6-step bell making pliers, and I'm going to bend them around my smallest loop on my bell making pliers. Boop. Until they come around and meet all the way. Now, if they don't meet all the way, just grab your round nose pliers and just tighten that up a little bit more until they meet there. Like that. This is not a centered loop. They're tipped off to the side. That's exactly what I want. And if I hold them both together like that, I'm going to use the second largest loop on my bail making pliers, this one, and I'm going to bend this wire around that. But I want these loops to be facing away from the loop that I'm bending it around. So I want them to be looking right at the largest loop. Like that. And I'm going to bend this around the smallest, or that second largest loop, just like that. See See how that makes that nice graceful curve. We take our chain nose pliers, and I usually like to do this about the same place where it curves in, or just where it almost meets. I'd like to give this a pinch to hold it steady, and then bend that back like that. And then about a couple millimeters away from that bend, I'll snip off my excess so that they are flush. I will usually use a metal file like this for the ends, just to remove any burrs. You could also get a burr cup to do that. But to make it a little sturdier, I will also give it a nice squish, either with this, or I've got some flat nose pliers that are great for that. Give it a good squish in there, and it flattens out the wire a little bit. You could also use a wire whacker or a bench block and nylon hammer to do the same thing, but this will work harden that wire so that it doesn't just bend willy-nilly when you're doing that. And I like to use 22 gauge wire because 20 gauge wire kind of hurts my ears a little bit when I wear it, but 22 gauge does not. So that's why I like to do it. And because I like to do it with 22 gauge, this part is sort of essential. If you don't have great grip strength, I highly suggest getting a bench block or a wire whacker to be able to work harden these. There we go. So that's my ear wires. Now I can just swing this open like you do a jump ring. Put this on, swing it closed, and I have an earring that I made using beads from the January 2025 Bargain Bead Box. Boom, here we go. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked this, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. And if you would like to check out Bargain Bead Box, I will put a link in the description below to their site. You can use my link in order to sign up, and I'll get a little referral from ya. There's also a coupon code in the description that you can use to get $2 off your first box or $2 off your first purchase from Bead Box Bargains. I hope y'all are having a fantastic week, and I will talk with you later. Bye.